Hi guys, welcome to my channel. I'm just going to be going through and running through some of my commanders, the builds, concepts, combos, and just overall goodness about them. So first and foremost, I'm going to be running through one of my favorite commanders that I play. It's Marath Will the Wild. He's Naya colored, and I've really used him towards a token theme is where I tried to take this. But Marath cost 9 colors, so white, green, and red, and he comes into play with a number of 1/1 counters on him equal to the amount of mana spent to cast him. So first time he comes in with 3 counters, then 5, 7, 9, which is fantastic because this is one of the few commanders that I've played that I want him to die numerous times throughout a game. So he has 3 abilities. He has an X, remove X 1/1 counters from Marath. Choose one of these abilities. Put X 1/1 counters on target creature you control. Or Marath deals X damage to target creature or player, or put an XX green elemental creature token onto the battlefield. There is an errata with this creature, is that X cannot be 0. So that is very important because there's a card later on that actually would interact with it if it were an option. But the power with him yields within his versatility. So let's go through. Number one, we're just going to go through the land base. So it's always the easiest one to run through. So it looks like we got a number of basics. So always got to have the forests. So 4 forests. There should be 3 plains and then 2 mountains. And then we jump into some fetches. I only play 1 of each fetch. I don't think it's needed to run any more than that. It just seems kind of wasted, to be honest. I do run 1 of each of the original duels, so Savannah, Taiga, and Plateau. So I run those for fetch targets, but also just good mana fixing. You run into a lot of things like that. Then you also have the shock lands. I run 1 of each shock. So you got Sacred Foundry, Stomping Grounds, and Temple Garden. Always benefits there. And I do run 1 of each filter because there are quite a few cards in the deck that actually utilize pretty heavy on one sway or another, so that's something that I'm always trying to fix there. So I run 1 of each of the filter lands, which is always just good things to do. I also run 1 of each of the man lands that produce Naya colored. So we got Stirring Wildwood, we got Raging Ravine, and we got Needle Spires, which all of them are very good. They're all elementals, so that actually does play a little bit of a factor because Marath's tokens actually are elementals, which there's a card later on that actually plays off of that. I do run 1 of each of the check lands. Once again, just easy mana fixing. It's just, why wouldn't you? It gives you 1 of each color if you have them all out there. I do have some utility lands, so we Command Tower, which is a no-brainer in Commander. Then Reflecting Pool, just because, once again, just that heavy kind of color-oriented. Play Gauge Cradles because of the token theme, so I want to be able to produce a lot of mana off of the cards that I do pump out there. I do run a Kor Haven. It saved my life quite a few times. I don't like Maze of Ith because it doesn't provide mana, especially in a Naya build. I think it just gives me that little edge and a good little tool to use when people don't expect it. Gavony Township, it actually works very well with Marath, because it does give a 1/1 counter on each one of your creatures, so with the token theme, you can utilize that many times. And then a Horizon Canopy, so I could draw a card later on in the game if need be. And then 1 Canopy Vista. I didn't go too heavy into the Tango lands, just because if you don't have them, it comes into play tapped, and that's typically a bad thing in Commander, especially with the curve of the deck, so I want to make sure that I can hit those curves pretty quickly. So I just played one dominantly because I had it. That's really the biggest factor there. Next card, we're going by card types and then by converted mana cost. That's how I broke these down. So we're starting out with creatures. Obviously, Risk to Redeem in a token theme is just a no-brainer. It provides everything you need. 1 mana with a hybrid. It is a 1/1. You could tap it for 3 mana to put a 1/1 green-white elf warrior token into play, or you could double every token you have. So it provides a lot of value, and there's actually a couple cards in the deck that work very well with this as well. Next thing is a Dragonmaster Outcast, 1 mana. If I have 6 or more lands at my upkeep, I get a 5/5 flying red dragon, which is awesome. I really love the card. I'm actually super big fan of dragons, so it provides everything that I like. Voice of Resurgence is amazing. It's a great early on threat, and then it deters a lot of people from casting things during my turn. And if they forget, then they get severely punished for it. And then when he dies, I get that same token. So it's something that's really good. I use Brimaz. He's once again just an early, fast little creature that gives me other creatures. So he's 3 mana for a 3/4 legendary cat soldier with vigilance. When he attacks, I get a 1/1 white cat soldier token with vigilance onto the battlefield attacking, and when he blocks, I get the same thing except for the creature blocks. So it gives a little bit of a early on token theme. Eternal Witness just gets me some great value. I really don't play a green deck and don't have Eternal Witness in it, so it just gives everything that we need. Then Solemn Simulacrum, or Sad Robot as everyone knows him. He's 4 mana, comes into play. I get to search my library for a basic land, put it into the battlefield tapped, and when he dies, I draw a card. Just in those random circumstances where I'm not drawing the ramp that I need or the color fixing, it helps in that area. And he's a colorless creature, so that always helps. Being a creature token theme, there's a significant amount more enchantments than a typical Naya build. So with the Academy Rector on the field, I'm able to go search out those high-powered enchantments, and we'll run across those, and I'll reference Academy Rector when we do that. Master of the Wild Hunt. He's really good because at your upkeep, 4 mana for 3/3. That's okay. It's not the best in Commander. But at your upkeep, you get a 2/2 green wolf, and then he can tap all untapped wolves you control, and each wolf tapped this way deals damage equal to its power to target creature. That creature deals damage equal to its power divided as its controller chooses among any number of those wolves. So it's a kind of a targeted kill. Granted, wolves aren't the theme of this deck. This just provides a consistent creature every turn. And since you're doing tokens, you can't do that without Proforos. He just comes into play. There's actually quite a few infinite combos that utilize Proforos and Marath in the deck. So it's just something that it's beautiful. It works the theme very well. It damages everyone, so you're not picking on anyone. You're just you're killing everyone equally, which is always fun, and it makes so you kind of still could keep that political game going. This one, sorry for the glare right there, guys. So Tristani is fantastic. 4 mana, 2/5 legendary dryad. Whenever another creature comes into the battlefield under my side, I gain life equal to its toughness, and I can populate. I've gained millions of life utilizing him in some of the infinite combos in the deck, but it just allows for you to be consistent and still not die. Xenagos is really good. in the deck to allow my creatures to have haste. So if I do throw out a big Marath and he's a 9/9 or some variation thereof, it allows for him to come out swinging, which is awesome. Kind of the same concept with Urbrask. It just allows for my creatures to come out swinging. So it's just a fantastic 5-drop, slows down my opponent and speeds me up, which is always good. My Cloth is really good. He's typically targeted really fast, especially if I've devoured 2 or 3 creatures with him. But if they leave him alone, I will stay ahead of the field, stay ahead of the board quite surely, especially if I have like a Cathars Crusade out. Just a fantastic card. I love it. I love it, love it. Kazul. This is one of the few cards that people always kind of criticize the deck about a little bit. But when you're staring down an army of tokens, and they have to pay 3 mana to make it so you don't get a token, it's fantastic. So I'll read it for you. It says, whenever a creature an opponent controls attacks, if I'm the defending player, put a 3/3 red ogre creature token onto the battlefield unless that creature's controller pays 3. So if you attack me with 10 creatures, you have to pay 30 mana, or I get 3/3 ogres. And if I have Doubling Season or Parallel Lives out, it exponentially gets out of hand. And he's kind of a random deterrent for attacking you. And he's foily, which is pretty. It's only like $1 though, so it's not super expensive anyway. The Dragon Broodmother, this gets out of hand really fast. So it is 6 mana, 1 green, 3 red, and 2 colorless. For a 4/4 flying dragon. At the beginning of each upkeep, put a 1/1 red and green dragon creature token with flying and devour 2 into play. So devour means that when it comes into play, I can sacrifice any number of creatures. That dragon will then in turn come into play with 2 1/1 counters for each creature sacrificed. It gets really out of hand with a 4-player game. You're getting 4 tokens every turn cycle. It gets ridiculous, and 3 of those can attack. Armada Wurm, I really am starting to like it. It just provides a great balance, and especially with, let's say, Tristani, you gain 10 life, you could populate the token. It just adds a good little beater in there. Other than that, it's just a 5/5 trample. Nothing ridiculous, nothing crazy. This is where tokens become crazy, is the Elesh Norn. It's the Praetor. It's 7 mana, 4/7 vigilance. Other creatures I control get +2/+2. Creatures my opponents control get -2/-2. So that's a 4-point spread, which is fantastic. Your 1/1s turned into 2/2s. Your 5/5s are 7/7s, which are fantastic and incredibly awesome. So Gisela is one of the, I guess I consider her a finisher, because if I have a number of tokens on the field and I'm right at that pinnacle where I could do lethal, I just need that extra oomph, Gisela provides it every time. Is that it takes 12 damage up to 24, or it takes 24 damage that you would have taken down to 12. So it just gives that huge deterrent there for your opponents. Omnath Locust of Rage. This is actually one of the bigger synergies with the deck, is the elemental creature type. And this one's very important. So it's 7 mana, 2 red, 2 green, 3 colorless. It's a 5/5 legendary elemental that when you landfall, you get a 5/5 red and green elemental onto the battlefield. When Omnath Locust of Rage or another elemental I control dies, Omnath deals 3 damage to them. So with, just going to bring him back into the field, into view, pardon me, is that the elemental aspect that he provides, all these tokens are elementals. So if they die, you can actually end up just lightning bolting someone's face to death just by a few tokens dying. And they could be 1/1s, and you can kill them with your Skull Clamp if you want to. The Avenger of Zendikar is just fantastic. It works with Gaze Cradle. It works with the next card, actually, the Regal Force. So you could draw a substantial amount of cards off of this. It gives you a substantial board presence. You have 7 or 8 lands on the field. You throw down 7 or 8 tokens. You play a fetch land, or you just play a land. And your guys all of a sudden are ridiculous. It works really well with Cathars Crusade. So I'd recommend utilizing both those in there. So Regal Force, once again, just kind of a good draw engine. The Craterhoof Behemoth, kind of like Gisela, is that it provides that just finishing touch there. And everyone knows Craterhoof. Craterhoof's awesome. When it comes into the battlefield, creatures I control gain trample and +X/+X until end of turn, where X is number of creatures I control. So if I have 10 creatures, all my creatures got +10/+10. And he has haste, so he can come out swinging. This one's a unique one. I'm still kind of on the fence with him because of his converted mana cost. But every time I've played him, it's always been at least a threat. But he's 8 mana, 1 white, 1 red, 2 green, 4 colorless, 8 mana, 8/8. Beast with vigilance that you could tap and put a beast into play that's basically a copy of himself. So those are all the creatures. All the creatures provide the theme, help the theme, or allow me to go get the theme. So it's something that you'll see here now that we're getting into the creatures. The sorceries, instants, enchantments, so on and so forth. So we have some mana ramp right here. Recross the Path, for all you know. For all you who don't know, Recross the Path's very awesome. It's 3 mana. Reveal the top card of your library until a land is revealed. Put that land into the battlefield and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. Clash with an opponent. If I win, Recross the Paths go back to my hand. So the benefit here is that it's any land, and it puts it straight onto the field, and it's untapped. Okay, which is fantastic. Then Kodama's Reach, which is exactly the same thing as Cultivate. So just go search for 2 basics, put 1 into play, 1 into your hand. I guess I got that one out of order there. Sorry, guys. So those 2 are basically the same card. Then we have Wheel of Fortune, which all players must discard their hand and draw a whole new 7. This is actually one of the few cards that is really good early on, but it gets significantly worse as the game goes on, because then you're refilling your opponent's hand. Even if they do have 7 cards in their hand, it's giving them a whole new 7. So it's kind of a iffy 50. I'd rather do this turn 3 or 4 when I've casted probably 3 or 4 of my cards in my hand, or 5 or 6, some variation thereof. And I need the new hand while disrupting my opponent, because they're trying to build that hand. So it's one of the few cards that are kind of random for me. Now, Counselor's Judgment. This is one of my favorite cards. And there is something that, just to clarify with everyone, to make sure that everyone's aware, is that it's 3 mana. It utilizes an ability, which is called Will of the Council. Starting with you, each player votes for a non-land permanent you don't control. So that's referring to me. Then exile each permanent with the most votes or tied for the most votes. Something I want to clarify with this is that this card gets around Hexproof, Shroud, Protection, because it doesn't target. The next thing is that they have to do all responses before voting is cast. Because of this, do you see how it's in italicized? That's an ability. So it's actually the ability of the card, not the actual text of the card. So it's a little bit of a difference there. So if you cast this card and someone has, let's say, Greater Good in play where they could sacrifice the creature, and I chose Greater Good, at that time that I had already chose Greater Good, it is already past it. So that's why you have to just declare it. I'm casting Counselor's Judgment. Are you doing anything? No? Okay, then we vote. Let's do this. So it's a fantastic card. It is a sorcery, so that is probably its biggest downside. But it is something that is a political card, especially if it's something that you don't like. And just to clarify, if there are 3 tied votes, all 3 of the cards are exiled. Okay. Last card in my favorites is Decimate. It's 4 mana, sorcery, destroy target artifact, target creature, target enchantment, and target land. In Commander, we run across so many variations of decks to where this is never stopped me from casting it by turn 4. There have been a few times where I've had to target my own thing, but I was able to stop someone very abruptly in their play. Wrath of God, that one's easy. Harmonize, just draw a couple cards. Then we got a little bit more of a ramp right here, since I do run all of the original duels and shock lands. I could grab 2 of those if need be. Route. I like Route because of the clause right here where you could pay additional to cast it as an instant. And it destroys all creatures that can't regenerate. Shamanic Revelation. This is one of the few cards that draws me a ton of cards, and I've gained a substantial amount of life off of it as well. So it's 5 mana, draw a card for each creature you control. Ferocious. You gain 4 life for each creature you control with power 4 or greater. Soul's Majesty actually works very well with Marath, because by turn 5, when he's died once, so he costs 5 mana now, is that you could draw 5 cards for 5 mana. Then we have Austere Command. I love the commands. Pretty much every single one of them serves a unique purpose. The red one I hate the most, but that's another story there. Austere Commands, 6 mana, choose 2, destroy all artifacts, or destroy all enchantments, or destroy all creatures with converted mana cost 3 or less, or destroy all creatures with converted mana cost 4 or greater. So this is very good because you get to select, okay, I'm going to destroy all creatures with converted mana cost 4 or greater, and all enchantments for 6 mana. It's a beautiful, beautiful card. I recommend it for any white deck. Now we're getting into some of the enchantments. So we have Sterling Grove. It's 2 mana, green and a white. All other enchantments you control cannot be the target of spells or abilities. You could pay 1, sacrifice Sterling Grove, search your library for an enchantment card, and reveal that card, shuffle your library, and put it on top. There's actually a cool little synergy here in just a moment that I'll show you that I utilize with this card. But it gives me some good protection. And like I said, this deck utilizes a little bit more enchantments than a typical Naya would, but it's really good. So we have that one. We have Luminarch Ascension. This does put a huge target on your head, but the target is well justified because if they don't stop you, they will die. So it's 2 mana. It's an enchantment. At the beginning of each opponent's end step, if you didn't lose life this turn, you may put a quest counter on Luminarch Ascension. So damage causes loss of life is the clause right there. You pay 2 mana, put a 4/4 white angel creature token onto the battlefield. Activate this ability only if Luminarch Ascension has 4 or more quest counters. So essentially, if you throw this down second turn, by 1 cycle and then a little bit more, this should be able to trigger. Sylvan Library is a fantastic one. It's a deck filter as well as a great way to kind of plan your next couple turns. So it's at the beginning of your draw step. You may draw 2 additional cards. If you do, choose 2 cards in your hand drawn this turn. For each of those cards, pay 4 life or put that card on top of my library. And you get to choose the order that the library is chosen. Aura Shards, since I'm running a lot of creatures and can pump out a substantial amount of them consistently, Aura Shards is an auto-include. I've been able to kill artifacts or enchantment-based decks just by this card alone. I've had people quit just by dropping this, and the game had just started. Fires of Yavimaya, once again, I do need my creatures to have haste, because if I'm able to pump out 15, 20, 30, 400 tokens, they need to be able to hit, because then that just gives too many opportunities for my opponents to just stop that. Then you have Parallel Lives, 4 mana. If an effect would put 1 or more token onto the battlefield under your control, put twice that many of those tokens onto the battlefield instead. So just to kind of jump back to Marath real quick, is that if I throw out 1 1/1 token, I would get 2 1/1 tokens. If I threw out 10 1/1 tokens, I would get 20. Okay? Just a clarification. Then Greater Good. This is also one of those cards that provide a lot of value, especially with the amount of creatures that you can have out there, and it works very well with Omnath, Locust of Rage, is to sacrifice creatures, draw cards, and then deal 3 points of damage. It also works with killing my commander, which, like I said in the very beginning, I want my commander to die substantially throughout a time. This is one of the best combos in the deck. Mana Echoes. So I'll read it and then I'll clarify. So it's 4 mana. Whenever a creature comes into play, you may add 1 colorless to your mana pool for each creature you control that shares a creature type with it. So I do want to clarify a few things here. It says whenever a creature comes into play, when you look up the Oracle text of it, it specifies even if that creature comes into play under your opponent's control, you still get the mana, as long as you have a creature that shares a type with it. But with this, if you pump out an elemental, he is an elemental, so you would get 2 colorless off of that. That is actually going to play a big factor with some of the combos here in just a minute. So Doubling Season, that's actually one of the combos that references. So you play Mana Echoes, and you have Doubling Season in play with Marath. Pardon me, didn't mean to knock that over. With Marath. So you could remove a 1/1 counter to put 2 1/1 counters on a different creature or on himself. So if he has 3 counters on him, you can remove 1, which puts him to 2, but then this will make it 2 counters, so he'll be at 4. So you can do that. And then the best thing about it is that with Mana Echoes, you use one of the tokens to throw out 2 elementals. You get 2 instances of 3 mana, which is 6 mana, and you can essentially make an infinite supply of mana, and then infinite supply of power and toughness, infinite supply of damage. Just with that interaction right there. And then Cathars Crusade is kind of a similar concept. If you have Mana Echoes out, you can actually throw out a token with Marath. They all get a token. You get to add mana, and then it turns into an infinite supply of mana. Marath will never be, Marath, will never be higher than his original amount. So if he only has 5, he'll always stay at 5. But every other creature will be substantially bigger. Assemble the Legion is... I love this card. This card's fun. It takes a few turns for it to really pick up, unless you have Doubling Season out. Then it gets crazy super fast. But it's 1 white, 1 red, 3 colorless. An enchantment. At the beginning of my upkeep, put a mustard counter on Assemble the Legion. Then put a 1/1 red and white soldier token with haste on the battlefield for each mustard counter on this. So if this has 3 tokens, I'll get 3 1/1s with haste. If I have Doubling Season, if it has 3 on that upkeep, it'll be at 5 because it only adds 1, so it'll give it 2. and then I will get 10 1/1s from that. So it's a very fantastic card. Last one. I'm sorry, not the last one. So we have Mirari's Wake, which is 1 white, 1 green, 3 colorless. Creatures I control get 1/1, and then my mana doubles. So it's whenever you tap a land for mana, add 1 mana to your mana pool of any type that land produced. This is actually one of the few cards that work very well with Sterling Grove, because Sterling Grove says that your enchantments can't be targeted. This says everything can't, so if you have them both on the battlefield, nothing on your side of the field could be targeted. So it's 5 mana. Other permanents you control cannot be the target of spells or abilities your opponents control. So if you have those 2 out in the field, your guys can never be targeted. They have to globally kill you. Now we're getting to enchantments. Artifacts. So we have Sensei's Divining Top, which is just a fantastic card, good filtering. It's 1 mana. You get a look at the top 3 of your library, put them back in any order. You can draw and then put Sensei's Divining Top on top of your library. It's a good way to keep it alive if someone tries to kill it, unless they have a Krosan Grip, but it's still a good card. Skull Clamp, really good, especially with Marath. You could just kill his tokens and get some extra value off of it. Soul Ring, that one is completely obvious. Then we have Basilisk Collar. It's 1 mana. It's 2 to equip. Equipped creature has Death Touch and Lifelink with Marath. If you equip it to him and you deal the 1 damage to target creature, it automatically kills the creature without any extra bonus there, which is so funny. And then if you include it with Illusionist Bracer, Illusionist Bracer says it's 2 to play, 3 to equip. When an ability of equipped creature is activated, if it isn't a mana ability, copy that ability. You may choose new targets for that copy. So this is actually one of the few combos with this. You could put Illusionist Bracer on this, and you could create an infinite supply of power and toughness of creatures. It just gets really ridiculous, and especially if you use Illusionist Bracer with Basilisk Collar, you can literally kill everything relatively quickly. So let's throw those off to the side. Grim Monolith, just for that quick mana, throw out that Mirari's Wake, 3rd turn, just kind of a quick, fast concept. Coalition Relic, I really like this card because it works very well with Doubling Season, because you can add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool, or you can put a charge counter on it. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, remove all charge counters from it and add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool for each counter removed. So at the end of your opponent's turn, you add a counter. With Doubling Season, it adds 2. Your upkeep, you add 2 more. So you just added 4 mana for that. Then we have Gilded Lotus, just another quick mana ramp. Alright, now we got some spells here. So we got Swords to Plowshare for just quick kills, same with Path to Exile. Both of those are just kind of self-explanatory to be able to stop your opponent's creatures relatively cheap. Enlightened Tutor is 1 mana. It's an instant. Search a library for an artifact or an enchantment. Reveal it to everyone. Shuffle your library, then put that card on top. It's just a great little card to search out those Doubling Seasons or whatever cards that you're needing at that moment. Unexpectedly Absent. This is something that a lot of people get confused by. I'm not sure if it's because they don't understand it, but it's a 2 mana with X, instant. Put target non-land permanent into its owner's library just beneath the top X cards of that library. So if you do it for 2, it'll put the card on top of their library. If you do it for 1, it'll put it second to the top. So it's a good little card to stop them. Krosan Grip is just enchantments and artifacts. Now we got to the walkers, and we're near the end of the page here. So we have Xenagos the Reveler, so he's 4 mana. You can +1 to add X mana in any combination of green or red to my mana pool, where X is the number of creatures I control. In this deck, you end up getting quite a bit of creatures, so you can add a lot of them. He can protect himself by making a 2/2 red-green satyr with haste, or -X, exile the top 7 cards of your library. You may put any number of creatures and or land cards from among them onto the battlefield. With him entering with the doubling season, you can automatically pop him, which is awesome. And then we have Garruk, Primal Hunter. I use him for his second ability 99% of the time, but his 5 mana comes in with 3 loyalty. You can +1 to get a 3/3 green beast, or -3 draw cards equal to the greatest power among creatures you control, or -6, and put a 6/6 green worm creature token onto the battlefield for each land you control. So it's typically where it goes. And then obviously you gotta have Elspeth in a token theme. Is that she's 6 mana. You with 4 loyalty, you can +1 put 3 1/1 white soldier tokens into play, or -3 destroy all creatures with power 4 or greater, or -7 you get an emblem with creatures you control, get +2/+2 and have flying. So that is the end of the deck. I would really love to see your guys' interpretations of decks. If there's other cards that you think I'm missing, please let me know, leave a comment, and subscribe. Thanks.